The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and good day, everyone. Welcome to the Biosafety Clearing House Project Phase 3 webinar on how to use the BCH Management Centre for registering information in the BCH. So I am your presenter, Ruel V. Maningas, one of the regional advisors of the BCH III Project under the UN environment. So you could see on the screen my email, Skype, and telephone number. So let me just introduce you again to this webinar, and I'd like to first show you myself for a while. Okay. So hello and welcome to our webinar. A few minutes from now, we will start the session. So we'll just wait for some more participants to join in the webinar. Okay. So if you have question as I proceed with my presentation, you can raise your hands and feel free to ask question, and I can answer all those clarification or questions that you will have. So you just have to raise hand by clicking on the control tab hand icon. So if you have some questions, so we can recognize you and answer your question. Again, you have to raise hand in order to be recognized. You have to click on the control tab hand icon. Okay, so let's start the webinar. Once again, hello and good day to everyone. So for our session, we just would like to give you some important announcement and guidelines. The webinar will be recorded for later public publishing as part of the BCH Education Material. So if you do not want to be recorded, please maintain your microphone muted and don't share your screen. Also, when participating in this seminar, you understand and implicitly accept this guideline. Webinar's opinion or the participant's opinion in the webinar and concerns and concepts expressed during this webinar do not necessarily reflect the UN Environment official position about any aspect. In any case, the official word about any aspect related to the Cartagena Protocol should be requested only from the UN Environment Authorized Official Organization, and that is the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity, or SCBD. For this webinar, so what we will do first is to have a brief introduction to the BCH III project, as well as the platform that we are using to share and provide learning resources, the virtual learning environment. And then after that, we will proceed to the session proper on how to use the BCH Management Centre for registering information in the BCH. At the end, if you have questions, then we will answer all those questions. Now, For the introduction on the BCH III project, the project is a joint venture between the UN Environment and the Global Environment Facility. The project is entitled Sustainable Capacity Building for Effective Participation in the Biosafety Clearing House, or simply BCH Phase 3. It is a global project with 76 participating countries. The overall objective of the BCH is to continue assisting eligible countries in strengthening national capacities to effectively access and use the BCH, as well as promoting regional and sub-regional collaboration, networking and exchange of experience, both for national and regional BCH management. There are components under this project. The first component is on global and sub-regional networking and knowledge sharing of information for effective management of the BCH. The component 2 is on the production of Biosafety Clearing House educational packages in all 6 UN languages as appropriate, as well as provision of virtual education tools. Component 3 is strengthening and sustainability of the Biosafety Clearing House regional advisor system to support parties for an effective participation to the BCH. Component 4, on the other hand, is more focused on assisting government officials, decision makers, and key stakeholders to enhance their understanding and, where appropriate, appreciation of what should or must be placed in the Biosafety Clearing House. And the last component, component 5, is sustainability and awareness of the BCH and national databases in coordination with United Nations agencies and other information sharing initiatives on biosafety. Please note that the webinar, just like this one, is produced in the context of the component 2 of the project. As previously mentioned, so we are using this virtual learning environment as a tool to make all the BCH learning objects accessible to different target audiences. This platform includes a variety of pre-developed training materials such as manuals, interactive training software, case studies, and curricula for different stakeholders. Training materials are also organized as virtual courses over which customized national and regional training solutions can be built. So you could see, you can access the BLE using the following link. Later on, I'll show you the actual platform as I mentioned. Now, in order to register in the BLE, you just need to follow the instructions in the homepage to create a new account, or send an email to admin@ble.bch3.un.org. In your email, you should clearly indicate your name, your surname, and your country. So these materials can actually help you in terms of understanding further the topic that we're going to have for this webinar. So let's proceed to the topics that we will discuss. First is all about registering information in the BCH, including the discussion on the critical role of National Focal Point in the registration process. We will also answer the question on what are the national authorized users, as well as the general users, or we call them also registered users. Where can we find detailed guidelines for registering information in the BCH? So I'm going to lead you to areas or sites where you can find those information which could guide or help you in terms of your practice or your actual registration of records in the BCH. And after all the slides have been presented, so in the end, so I'm going to demonstrate how to create and manage BCH records, including the flow of interaction or information exchange between the national authorized users and the national. And then, of course, we will entertain questions in the end. Now, why could this be important for all of us? So let me just give you some facts. There is a need to comply with obligations arising from the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. So a party has an obligation to register information as per the stipulations under the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. It would also be convenient on the part of the country to register their institutions and products in the BCH. Also, the information to be registered in the BCH can be very extensive, and this may require that different agencies collaborate to get it. Or you are part of a non-governmental institution that wishes to publish reference information in the BCH, such as laboratory, academy, researcher, and other significant information related to biosafety. And so, we will answer these three questions. How can we perform the BCH information registering related tasks? What are the processes that we need to observe? What are the steps that we need to follow? How can we minimize the corresponding costs? And at the same time, the question on how can we be assured about the information security, because this information are coming from countries, coming from individuals. So what would now be the safety measures to protect this information for being hacked? So the answer is the BCH Management Centre. So let us now proceed to the discussion about how to register information, how to manage information related to BCH using the BCH Management Centre. Prior to that, again, let me reiterate the available related BCH education resources. So in the BLE, when you click this link to the site, there are also available manuals that could help and guide you in registering information. So you have the Manual 6 for the general overview, general guidelines on registering information in the BCH, Manual 07 for national information, and Manual 08 for the registering reference information in the BCH. In the BLE, you can also find some case studies that are related to registering information in the BCH. Aside from that, some education resources can be also found from the quick reference guides that you can actually access from the BCH Central Portal. So this includes the following. So you have the quick start, record types, information or the, explanation about the information resources, the timeline, etc. So this can be found under the BCH help section, specifically under the subsection training materials. And to practice registering information, we are also using BCH training site. Later on, I'm going to show and demonstrate to you how to use the BCH training site. Now, who can register information in the BCH? There are actually two types of information. First is the national information, and those who can register this type of information is the national focal point and the national authorized users. For reference information, then you have the registered users or the general users. But in order for you to register information, you need to have a registered user account. So as I've said, after I finish all the slides, I'm going to show you one by one the step-by-step process of registering new account as well as signing in to the BCH Central portal using the training site. Okay, now I believe it is important for us to understand the different record types, specifically national record types. First is the national focal points. The national focal points are actually individuals or institutions responsible on behalf of their government for liaising with the CBD Secretariat on issues required by the protocol. This is actually represented by the CPB National Focal Point. Also, facilitating the sharing of information and liaising with the ZBD Secretariat on issues related to the development and implementation of the BCH. It is actually the role of the BCH National Focal Point. The other one is a focal point who received notifications about the unintentional transboundary movement of an LMO and emergency measures. So these are actually the contact person for emergency measures. We have also national website or database. These are online resources maintained as official governmental or national sources of biosafety information. The CNA or competent national authorities are those responsible for performing administrative functions required by the protocol. So we also have biosafety law, regulation, guidelines, and regional and international agreements. So law is those laws that has been passed by the national legislative body of a country's government. Regulations, on the other hand, in most jurisdictions are subordinate legislation, usually of an administrative nature that is authorized by national law. When we talk about the guidelines, these are intended to assist with providing ways of complying with the national laws and national regulations. So there are also, as part of the national record type, bilateral, multilateral rather, and regional agreements. These are agreements or arrangements between governments to implement the provisions of the protocol. We also have, as part of the natural record type, the country decisions and any other communication. So this includes the decision under the Advance Informed Agreement on the first intentional transboundary movement of LMOs for intentional release in the environment of the party of import. We also have under this the decisions under Article 11 or decisions on LMOs for direct use as food or feed or for processing, including placing on the market and decisions related to import. There are also other decisions that can be included as part of the national records, which are not necessarily under Article 11 and under AIA. Also, submission from parties and other governments. These are made available to both government and biosafety-related organizations for the submissions to the BCH of any additional type of information with the option to link to the previous notification or any other BCH records and some biosafety thematic areas. In particular, those that are not covered by other registration forms. There is also risk assessment generated by the regulatory process. So this is basically a summary of risk assessment on environmental reviews taken in accordance with the Annex 3 of the protocol. Biosafety experts Included here are details of experts who have been nominated by a government as an expert in the field. Okay, and last one is the reports on assignment undertaken by the biosafety experts. So there is a need to first register the experts, and then when they have reports, they will have to also register those reports in the BCH. Now, let us try to simulate now the interaction between the national focal point and the national authorized users. But I'd like to highlight first the role of the BCH National Focal Point. This person actually validates national information to be published in the BCH. It is actually the one liaising with the SCBD for BCH-related matters. So who can nominate the NFP and how? So either the CBD, National Focal Point, or CPB, National Focal Point, or Secretary or Minister of State can nominate the NFP. So who are the national authorized users? So these users are BCH registered users that in a country, in a country's context, may collaborate to input national information in the BCH. So they work in coordination with the national focal point. So there is a strong link of national focal point with the national authorized users. The NAUs may input information in the BCH, but this will only be published once validated by the NFP. So the NFP, if the NFP is the one registering information, it will automatically be published. But for the national authorized users, it has to pass through the validation of the national focal point. We invite you to see our webinar about national authorized users management, and soon this will be made available also in the BLE. Now, if we are going to use the training site to practice in registering information, please note about this important disclaimer that the institutions and persons there are just fictitious. So we are going to demonstrate this later, but just to show you first the process, we need to log in to the BCH training site. But the focal point can actually do it in the real site. Okay, so later on we will select a training space. So we will have Malaysia. We will select the role. So we will simulate both the role of national focal point and national authorized users. And we will also try to review the fields related to competent national authority records as well as decisions and risk assessment records. Now, in registering national information, so this can be done by both the national authorized users and national focal point, as mentioned. So the users can create, they can also update and delete the records. At the same time, aside from registering the records in English, they may also select other languages, one of the UN languages and also their local language. There are also mandatory fields, meaning you need not skip those fields, otherwise the record would not be completed and you would not be allowed to submit it for publishing. So there will be a notice once you miss this mandatory field, so you will be notified in the system that you need to comply with that particular mandatory field. Okay. And also, some records need to have reference fields, which I am going to show later on. Also, some records need to have a time frame for confirmation or updating information. For example, the competent national authority. So there is a provision there to check whether there is a need to confirm. So after a year, for example, so in the event that there is no updating, so the BCH would consider it as unconfirmed. User can also review, save, and publish the records. Okay, and I'd like to show you also the flow of information for publishing national data on the next screen. Okay, you could see here that there are two ways. Okay, you can opt to, for example, use the common format. The common format is downloadable from the BCH Center portal. You can actually first use it. And then if the records are already completed, then that will be the time that you will have it as basis for entering the records online. So using the BCH online registration forms. So if, for example, if it's a national record, as mentioned, and you are a national authorized user, you need to first have your record validated by the National Focal Point. And if it is validated to be ready or in order to be published in the BCH, so then the NFP would validate it and it will become public. So it will be registered in the BCH as published. Otherwise, if the NFP has some concerns with regards to the records submitted by the national authorized users, so the NFP would notify the NAU about the needed changes or additional information. So again, it would pass through the same process of gathering the necessary information. And if the information is complete already, then the same process, you can actually have it submitted online. And then if the National Focal Point find it in order, so he will validate the record and immediately that will be published in the BCH and so forth and so on. Okay, so that's the process of interaction between the NFP and the NAU. The NFP can also cancel the publication request. For example, if there are insufficient information, so meaning, for example, the NAU was not able to comply with the necessary changes, so the NFP can cancel the request. So in that case, information is not published. Okay? Okay. So for the reference information type, so we have here contact details. So this common format is actually can be used by any registered BCH user to submit or modify the contact details registered in the BCH. Please take note that the information registered to this format will not be made available to the general public, and it will only be accessible to the record owner for easy reference when creating future records. So please take note of that. Okay, so next is again. Okay, wait for a while. Okay, let me just check it. Okay. Okay. Oh my God, why is it not working? Okay, there we go. Just wait for a while. Okay. So next is capacity building activities, projects, and opportunities. So for the capacity building projects, this contains information on project status and location, including the lead organization, contacts, objectives, and activities, and lesson learned. It also includes brief description about the project, as well as web link to detailed information. For the capacity building opportunities, this includes one-time short-term capacity building opportunities such as funding grants, scholarship and fellowships, technical assistance, training workshops, etc. As regards the capacity building needs and priorities, this includes the capacity requirements of parties for the implementation of the protocol, identified and categorized in line with the elements of the capacity building action plan. So some more. Biosafety organization are organizations involved in the activities related to biosafety with summaries of the activities and contact information. Submission from relevant organizations includes these are made available to both government and biosafety relevant organization. For the submission to the BCH of any additional type of information with the option to link to previous notification and any other BCH records. The BIRC, or the Biosafety Information Resource Center, is a database of biosafety-related publications and information resources maintained by the CBD Secretariat. It has an objective of increasing the accessibility and use of available biosafety information. Also, on the reference information types is the BCH News. These are news related to biosafety. Risk assessment are those reports generated by an independent or non-regulatory process. It must be in accordance with the Annex 3 of the protocol. LMOs, or living modified organism, is registered in the BCH, and that includes transformation events, genetic modification, and the unique identification code for each record. Genetic element refers to the DNA sequences, including genes, regulatory DNA sequences, and other nucleic acids used to create a living modified organism. So, last one is the organism, which is, this includes information that refers to unmodified organism, or what we call non-LMOs, that are referred to as recipient or donor organisms in other registries, such as the LMO and gene or DNA sequence registries. Now, how do we register reference information? The first question is, who is entitled to register this kind of information? Who will eventually validate it? And then what will be the flow of information for publishing reference data? And soon we will also have some demonstration on that. But let me show you this flow of interaction between the, between the reference record and the SCBD. So you could see here, if the type of record is a reference record, then it should be forwarded to the SCBD for validation. So it is not immediately published on the central portal. So it would pass through the validation of the SCBD, and if they find the record in order, so then it will be published. If not, then the SCBD will request changes or additional information. Please take note that every time there is a record entered in the BCH by the reference users, the SCBD is notified. At the same time, when the information registered by the reference users is already published, then the SCBD also notifies the reference record, the reference user, rather. Okay. Now, to recap, before we proceed with the demonstration, So let's try to do it one by one. So who can register information in the BCH? So we have both the national users, that includes the NFP and the NAU, and also the reference users or the general users. Where can we find detailed guidelines and exercises about BCH information registering? So you have the manuals available in the BLE and also in the BCH Center portal, BCH Help section. There are also some guide points in terms of quick reference and also cases that can guide you when you practice entering information in the BCH. We also discussed the different types of national information and also the role of the national focal point and the interaction between the NFP and the national authorized users. We also discussed the types of reference information and also the need to have the BCH training site to practice registering information in the BCH. So next is we will now proceed with the information registering demonstration. Okay, so I will pause my screen for a while, and then I will proceed with the registration of information demonstration. Okay, so as mentioned, before you can register records in the BCH Center portal, you need to sign up for an account. So if you don't have an account, then you have to do this first. But if you have already, then you can directly sign in to the BCH Center portal. So when you sign up for the account, okay, so you need to fill out the necessary information here, your title, your name, first name, last name, and then please take note that the name is a mandatory field, including the country, phone number, as well as the email address. Once you completely filled out this form, you have to just click the submit request, and with this, you will receive a notification from the BCH. Let me show you that example. Okay, let me pause for a while and check. Wait one. Okay, so this is an example. So I sign up for the account, and then I received this email from BCH, so informing me that I am already a registered user. So meaning the next time I visit the management center, so what I would do is to just sign in using my account and my email, which is normally my email address. And then you will also be instructed to change your temporary password. Okay, and if you also forgotten your password, there is also a way to retrieve it. So this is an example of the notification when you sign up. Now, if you are already a registered user, so all you have to do is to sign in. Okay, so I am going to sign using my email address, and then also just type your password. Okay. So please note that you need to be in the training site when we practice registering information. So just please consider this as an important instruction. So we will select a public training site, and then we have as an example, okay, Malaysia, as I said when I presented the slides. And then here, I'm going to select a role of a BCH National Focal Point. Okay, so please note here that we are on. You could see the background training site of the BCH. You have to be very careful. You have to be in this site. Okay. So now my role, as I've chosen, is a BCH National Focal Point. So meaning, as a National Focal Point, when I register a new record, it would automatically be published in the BCH. Okay. So now, hold on for a while. I'm going to also demonstrate the National Authorized Users training site. So I'm going to change role. Okay, so for a while, I'm going to pause screen and lead you to the National Authorized User. Okay, so you could see here, another window is there is a National Authorized User. Okay, so we have two main actors in registering national information. So let's now try to demonstrate the interaction between the two. Okay, so okay, so I am a national authorized user, so I would like to register a new record. You just have to click register a new record. Okay, so in the screen, you can see there both national and reference record. But at this point, since we are demonstrating the interaction between the national focal point and the national authorized users, so we will register national records. Let's have as an example to just make it easy because others have lots of fields. Let's say, for example, the National Biosafety website. So as mentioned, you can initially download the common format, prepare the report, and when the reports are done, then you could have it as basis prior to entering the records online. So assuming that you have already that information ready, so we will have it recorded online. Okay. Okay. You would immediately notice on this area that you need to specify languages. Okay. So you click it, and what will appear on your screen is it is English. Okay. But you can actually, as I've mentioned, you can actually use other languages. You could change it in. You can have two of the UN languages. You can have also, like for example, English and Spanish. But you can also consider your national languages of a country. For example, Malaysian. Let's just have as an example Malay. Okay. Then you just have to save the selection. You would notice on the screen, okay, that you have now three fields. You can enter the data in English, in Spanish, and in Malay. So let's try to just put there. Maybe this is a test. Okay. Good morning. Okay. And in English, maybe we could put it, this is, assuming that this is in Spanish. Okay. Buenos días. Días. Okay. So you can also have, for example, in Malay, this is the test. Okay. It depends on the chosen language. So please note that this one is mandatory. The description is also mandatory. So if you have three fields, then you have to indicate the description in three languages. Yes, example. Yes, okay. So, okay, so that's basically what you could do when you select three languages. So again, the website address is mandatory, so you have to add website. Just try to again put the three. So maybe Biosafety at Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources .gov.ml. So you can just copy also the same, assuming that .gov.ml. And also let's have it also under Malay. Okay. Okay. Now, as I mentioned in my slide, you can actually save. So when you are done with page 1, you can actually review prior to going to page 2. So you could see there and check. So you have now the data ready on screen. So if you think the information are already complete, then you can proceed to page 2. Okay, then continue entering record data. So to be fast, let's just put it, this is a test. Sorry, test, and yeah, this is a test. So you may have some other information. So if none, then you can save changes. Okay, so you submit for publishing. Okay, you can also save it as a draft, then just go back to complete. So please note that the status here is pending approval. So again, let me highlight that my role as of this moment is a national authorized user. So meaning, accordingly, if a national authorized user enters or register records, it needs to pass the validation of the national focal point. So now, hold on for a while. I am going to change my role. So from national authorized users, I'm going to simulate the role of the national focal point. Okay. Now, okay. So now, for us to check the status of records, you just have to click the Management Center here. Okay. And you can see at the bottom, there is this record that requires the national focal point. Please take note. Let's go back. So see, I am now a national focal point. Okay. So, and it needs, I need to validate the record submitted by the national authorized user. So you could see the status here is pending approval. So you just have to click the record. Okay. So you can immediately approve it. You can cancel. You can also request changes. Assuming that the record is complete, then the national focal point can approve it. And after this action, you would note that the record is already published. So this is on the side of the national focal point. Okay, so this, I am a national focal point. Okay, hold on for a while. We will check now if there is a change in the status of the record of the national authorized users. So again, we will change the role. Let's check. Okay. So you would note that it's still pending approval. All you have to do is to just refresh it. Okay, so now you could see that the record is already published. So the national authorized users already got the information that the record is already published. Just the same, when there is a change or there is already approval of the records, so there is a notification of email on the part of both the national authorized users and the national focal point. So that's how we register national information. Okay, so now, on the other hand, we need to also simulate registration of reference records. Okay, so I am here. My role is a national authorized user. Let us check. Okay. So, as mentioned, the one validating the reference record is the SCBD. Okay. Just like in the national information, entering record of national type, the user can initially download the common format and prepare the report, and then if it's already complete, and there is also some level of validation on the part of the organization or the government, then we can proceed directly to registering it online. So let us now try to have, for example, news. Okay, so this is a news, this is a reference record. So let's submit the record online. Again, let me reiterate, I am a national authorized user, so I'm the one registering the record. Okay, so in this case, not only as an authorized user, if you're also a registered user, then you can enter reference record. Okay, so we assume, for example, that this is a reference user, a general user. Okay, so you have here the title of the record, for example, news on first national BCH workshop in Malaysia, for example. Then you could attach a website, and then you have the abstract. So, for example, this is the output of the workshop. A news, and then you have the news text. If, for example, you can copy, if there is an available article on that, you can copy and just paste it here. Just put it, this is a test. Okay. Okay. So now you can review or you can save changes. Okay. Save for submit for publishing. Okay. So when a reference user submit a record for publishing, so the SCBT will be notified through email. And then if, for example, there is already action on the part of the SCBD, then this status will be changed. The reference users will be notified in his or her email that the information or the record has been published already. So let me show you an example of the notification. Okay, I'll pause you for a while. Okay, let's check about the notification. Okay, okay. So okay. Okay. So this is an example of a notification from the SCBD that the record registered by Dr. Ocampo, for example, has been published already. So this is an example. So reference user would receive this once the information that he or she registered as a reference user has reached the level of the CBD. So the user would receive an automatic notification through email that the record, and there is a link to the record. See, when you click this one, then you could see that record in the BCH. So that's how the interaction or the flow of information between the reference users and SCBD is all about. Okay, so I think that's all in reference to the demonstration. So let's try to, okay. Okay. continue now. Okay, so let's just have a recap again. So we just had our demonstration of the interaction between the national authorized users and the national focal point. And you also had an account of how reference records are also registered and how the SCBD approves or validates the records. Okay, and I think that's all. Thank you very much, and we would now entertain questions.
So good morning or good afternoon to everybody. My name is Ernesto Ocampo. Thank you very much, Dr. Maringas, for this webinar. I have just a question just to clarify and open the room for participant questions. So there is a very important difference between the validation process for national records and reference, what you call reference records. Could you please reinforce that idea?
Okay, so let me reiterate the interaction. The difference is if it is a national record, okay, that needs to be, when you enter that record as a national authorized users, so it would not automatically be published on the BCH Center portal. It needs to pass through the validation of the national focal point. Now, if the national focal point is the one registering information in the BCH, that would be directly published. So it is automatically published. For the reference users, if they record or if they register a reference record, like what I've mentioned, I have shown as a demonstration news, for example, so it has to be validated first by the SCBD. So it would not be automatically published. But there will be notification, so the users will be notified, the SCBD also will be notified that there is a information registered, and then the SCBD will notify the users in the event that the record is published. So that's basically the way that the interaction is going on between the national information and the reference information. So again, it depends now on the nature of user. That is the basis for the publication of the information on the BCH, depending on their role. That dictates the way the information would be published. Any more questions? You can write a question on the chat area or in the question area, and of course we will be willing to answer those questions. So you can write a question on the question page. Okay, so we have a question from Ulrika. Hello, Ulrika.
Oh, Sid. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello, good day.
Hi. Good morning. Yeah, no, mine is not really a question. But first of all, thank you so much for the presentation also. And mine is just about, I'm not sure how familiar the people are that are participating, that as much as possible to not use web links, because links always expire or there's an error many times. It can happen in the future. So yeah, we always recommended to for example, in the BERC or BCH News, to upload a PDF file instead, or a Word file, as much as possible. Of course, sometimes it's not possible because you have a website and you have to the website. But yeah, as much as possible in the other capacity building records or so on, to try to use PDF files of things.
Yeah,
So
I agree
just
on
a
that.
note. Yeah,
I agree on
that's
that. That
on
would
the.
be better. Yeah.
Thank
So maybe
you.
that would be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
Ulrika.
very much, Ulrika, for your intervention. Actually, this is a very important notice regarding things like sorry, things like laws or decisions. Hello, hello. Sorry.
Hello, Ernesto. Yeah.
Yeah, this I have an interruption from the microphone. This is actually a very important thing regarding decisions and laws. Whenever you are registering laws in the BCH and decisions, it's very important to try to attach the original document because several times the websites from the institutions change and the links change, and then it's very difficult to find the actual documents.
Yeah, it is really good to highlight that not all the time web links would be a very good option. You know, it is really better to include the PDF file so that in the event that the organization is changing their website, for example, because those are actually attached to their website, so the document will still be available. So that is a very good recommendation, actually. Okay. So maybe I have some more questions.
I'm not sure if I can highlight something else, but just in general, it's been well, some of the records maybe a bit outdated. For example, in our organization's database and so on, and there's another one, for example, the academically accredited courses. For example,
Okay.
it's very difficult for the CBD to keep up sometimes with all the changes and the names of the new people. I'm not sure if focal points, BCH, National Focal Points could somehow at times check these organizations if they are from the country or the universities that are just to and send them a reminder to update their records. It will help the secretariat. We were trying the best to update all this, but it's yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
CBD, so,
thank you for that comment. Actually, in our in the series of national and the Euro workshop, we also reiterate that there is a need to update information. What would be the role of national focal points as well as the stakeholders in the different countries to update. So because we really have to help each other. So it's really, I agree that it's really difficult for SCBD to continuously seek for updates, and there is really a need for cooperation among the countries to help SCBD updates those information because it is important that they are really up to date. I believe in that. Thank you.
oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Are there other? So we have a question, okay, from Mr. Bundi. Mr. Bundi, hello. Can you hear me? So we have a question from Mr. Bundi. Okay, let me check.
Okay, yeah, we have a question from Mr. Bundy. I will read it. It's
Yeah.
he says, can one save a record to work on it later before publishing?
Okay, so I saw the question. Yes, definitely. So you can actually save a record as a draft. Okay, so for example, if you have some more information that you need to enter and you don't have that yet, so you can save it as a draft and just go back to there when you have already time to complete it. So it is possible. Some more questions. So are there other questions or clarifications from the participants? Okay, so if there are no more questions, again, let me check. Okay, thank you very much for your participation, and we look forward to the learning that you need to apply when you have also your own registration of records in your respective countries. So thank you very much, and have a nice day. Are there another question? Okay, let me check. So do we have one more question? Okay, okay.
So there's a new question from Jospat Mukiri. The question is, how do you register a new GMO and assign a unique ID number?
Okay. The LMO is a reference record, and when you register it in the BCH, again, since it is a reference record, it will be subject for validation of the SCBD. So in terms of the record, the system would provide automatic assignment of the records in a particular LMO. So just record the information and then wait for the notification from the SCBD. And again, that would have the complete record as regards the unique identification. Okay. So are there some more questions? Okay. So there is a clarification here. In addition, that the LMO unique identifier is given by the company following OCDE rule. Okay. So thank you. Mohammed, do you have additional information about this?
Yes, if I may. So the unique identifier is following the OCDE rule. That means that there are the two first digits who are for the company who issued the LMO. Then the 4 or 5 digits are the number given by the company, and the last digit is the security, let's say security digit, which combines the former digits.
Okay. So in essence, there is a standard that we follow in terms of coming up with a unique identification of an LMO. There is actually a quick reference guide on that about the unique identification, also available in the central portal. Okay, under the help section. So thank you, Muhammad, for the clarification. In essence, so after all the process has been observed, so then the particular LMO would have its unique identifier published on the central portal. So they will form part of the LMO registry as part of the compiled information. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Maringas, and thanks everybody for participating in this webinar.
Okay. So thank you again, and have a nice day.
Thank you, Rule.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.